One of so-called witness on our trial was Vice Minister of National Defense. As witness, he made a speech, and during this speech he told that we have to be burned with hot iron. I asked him, what does it mean? He told me, you have to be pulled out with your roofs.
Auf, Blut zum blutigen heiligen Kampfe, bezwinge die Feinde, du Arbeitervolk. Auf die Barrikaden, erschürfe die Welt, du Arbeitervolk.
Western liberals don't have much love for Poland's far-right government. The mainstream media jumps on every opportunity it can get to criticize it. But there's one demographic you'll almost never hear mentioned in any of those articles. Ironically, it's the one group of people that have historically done the most to fight right-wing extremism and especially Nazism. I'm talking about Polish communists. These people are the protagonists in the little-known story this video focuses on, a tale involving an all-out assault on what's supposed to be the liberal sacred cow, freedom of speech. For nearly 5 years, a court battle between the Polish state and the Communist Party's newspaper editors has raged. And the crime for which they've been accused? Supporting an ideology that the government considers totalitarian. You see, Poland's government pushes a very warped narrative of its own country's history. One that equates the Nazis, who destroyed most of the country and built death camps to kill the population on an industrial scale, with the Soviets, who liberated the camps and helped facilitate post-war reconstruction of the country. This narrative claims the USSR collaborated with the Nazis because of the non-aggression pact they both signed on August 23, 1939, and the secret protocols that outlined their partition of Poland. Of course, no mention is ever made of what drove the USSR to make such a potentially incriminating agreement. We never talk about the fact that Stalin was anticipating a war with Germany to take place in 1942, and that he needed a buffer between the borders of the USSR and the Nazi war machine, because the Western powers were certainly not going to help out at the time. We're not supposed to talk about the USSR's repeatedly ignored proposals to form an anti-Axis military alliance with Poland, England, and France. Or Joseph Stalin's secret proposal to those same countries for a mass deployment of troops to meet Nazi aggression, just a week before the USSR signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Poland's government doesn't want you to know that its own predecessors had a non-aggression pact with Nazi Germany much earlier in 1934, which doesn't necessarily imply collaboration, it's just a bit hypocritical. Now, interwar Poland did collaborate with the Nazis when it annexed part of Czechoslovakia right alongside Germany in the Munich Agreement of 1938. You might be thinking, okay, well, the USSR also annexed part of Poland, what's the difference? Well, that territory was actually conquered by Poland in a war just 2 decades prior. As for Poland's Czechoslovakia land grab, only opportunism can be understood as the justification. The Polish ambassador to France even said Warsaw would oppose an attempt by the USSR to come to the Czechoslovakian government's aid against the Nazi occupation. In fact, many of Poland's actions in the interwar period make it look more like an aspiring empire than an innocent victim. But if you say that in Poland or suggest that socialism wasn't all that bad, you could go to jail. There are many laws in Poland that prescribe legal punishment for challenging the government's narrative. Here's an excerpt from the Act on the Institute of National Remembrance. Anyone who publicly and contrary to the facts denies crimes referred to in Article 1, Nazi crimes, communist crimes, shall be subject to a fine or the penalty of imprisonment of up to 3 years. The sentence shall be made public. Those facts are, of course, the ones that the Polish government has determined. Now take a look at Article 256 of the country's penal code. Whoever publicly promotes a fascist or other totalitarian system of state or incites hatred based on national, ethnic, race, or religious differences, or for reason of lack of any religious denomination, shall be subject to a fine, the penalty of restriction of liberty, or the penalty of deprivation of liberty for up to 2 years. Whoever, in order to distribute, produces, records, or brings, buys, stores, possesses, presents, transports, or sends print, record, or other item containing the substance referred to above, or being a carrier of the fascist, communist, or other totalitarian symbolism, shall be subject to a punishment as referred to above. It's not only insulting, but dangerous that the people writing these laws are trying to blur the very bold lines between communism and other ideologies like fascism and National Socialism, which really should be criminalized. Because the umbrella term of totalitarianism is never clearly defined, the government can use these laws to target whoever has a political agenda it doesn't like, and it definitely does not like communism. I was able to get an interview with living proof of that, a Polish communist named Marcin. He's the defendant in the legal battle against the Polish Communist Party's newspaper, and he's got a lot to say about the case as well as about the politics surrounding it. So, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the video. I'm here today with Marcin. He was the administrator of the Communist Party of Poland's now defunct website. Thanks a lot for coming on and giving us this interview. So we should start with why you're being persecuted and prosecuted by the Polish government. Give us a background of how this began all from the beginning, and what are the latest updates with that?
All right, so we are talking about the real reasons that are behind that.
Yeah.
So I think the real reasons are that we are now experiencing the transition of the political system from classic neo-colonial one we had before 2013 to so-called NATO flank, Eastern NATO flank regime, where all countries bordering, NATO countries bordering with Russia and also the Ukraine is transformed into the regime which is far from the liberal democracy rules. This territory is being prepared to be the base for any possible military action that I think is unfortunately planned in the future. Mm-hmm. And the prosecution of communist parties and also any other so-called dissidents is common practice there.
When did your specific case begin, and what made the courts come after you, basically?
My specific case began in 2013, where I was for first time being interviewed by the police, and consequently was put into the suspicion. And since 2015, I've been officially prosecuted because the act of indictment is dated on December of 2015.
Mm-hmm. And what did they say was the reason that you're being indicted?
This is something very mysterious because the act of indictment is actually dummy. This is a stop. You cannot find there any specified act you had committed. This is only generally told that I was the administrator of the website and that through this media I published content appealing directly to the idea of communist system of the state and Marxism and Leninism, what in the context of historical experiences is the negation of democratic values. All the evidences that were used here, this is entire context of the website. This is something really huge. Mm-hmm. But no concrete publication is specified there.
Mm-hmm. And is there a specific law that you know that they're using to justify this? Do you know?
Yes, but what we need to tell first that the party was established in 2002 during exactly the same legal regime. Nothing had substantially changed in there, and they used Article 256 of Polish Penal Code, Criminal Code, and it sounds like so. Who publicly propagates fascist or other totalitarian system of the states, or call upon the hatred on the background of national, ethnic, race, and religious differences. So they try to attribute totalitarianism to the communist system of the state. They call it all the time system of the state. And what is also important, that totalitarianism or totalitarian system of the state is something completely undefined. This is very fuzzy concept that is being used now, because when this article was established, it was yet clear that totalitarianism is the ideology defined by the fascism. This totalitarian system of the state is the state that try to control all the aspects of the social and the human life. So everything is inside the state and nothing outside the state, as Italian fascists defined it. Now they're trying.
They prosecute you for, right? Whatever they say is totalitarianism.
They never say anything. They are only asking me questions, and they are trying to avoid defining this concept at all. They only try to claim that the Soviet Union was totalitarian state and People's Poland was totalitarian state. So any attitude, positive attitude to any development in these countries is in violation of this article. And we operated under the same regime for 11 years. So what has been changed? Not the legal system, just the interpretation of this very fuzzy concept of totalitarianism. So the only political will decides who is criminal now, not the law itself. So you must just focus at the intentions of our political and governments. It's nothing that you know the legal acts. You must see what do they like or what don't they like, and this only way you can know you are safe. This is not the process for specified action. This is just for our opinions. And now you try to imagine such a situation, like for example, someone was accused for shoplifting, right? So he is a thief, and he was accused for thievery. And instead of being stated what did he ever steal and where, there is a list of all shops he had visited during 5 years. Instead of such an indication, there is expertise, where the expert is telling you that we cannot indicate any case of theft. We don't know. We don't see he had stolen anything. But look at his eyes. He's looking very thief-like. Look at his other features. He must have stolen something, or if he even didn't steal anything, he intended to do so if he only had an occasion, so he has to be condemned. And this is what we have. We've got such an expertise that is stating very similar things, just only referring to this totalitarian system of the state. This trial is a slap. There is such an English word like SLAP that stands for Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. This is the lawsuit that is very unclear, and here this is also very unclear, as we don't know what our publication was in violation with the legal act, but it lasts for 5 years, 4.5 actually. So everyone, all the public opinion know that something that is tied to communism may be illegal. Nobody can know, and even I don't know what I am accused for. What is really legal or illegal? They are trying to create and extend, as long as it is only possible, the legal uncertainty. So they want people to stop, not to make an action that is strictly legal now, just because of spreading fear. This is so-called freezing effect. And this freezing effect already is very significant in political life, not just only because our process, but also because some other events that had taken place already. People know that anyone who is, for example, questioning our international relations or international policy, or maybe our internal system of the state is potentially in danger, so they are just scared to do anything. This is philosophy of SLAPP. And what I would like to say that in many countries, especially in the United States, we have already anti-SLAPP regulations, because especially big companies used this method to silence down its opponents, or to harm interests of the public. But here we have something opposite. The state doesn't prevent it, but this is state-sponsored. SLAPP, the state sponsors this SLAPP, and it uses it directly against public, and the state do it for political reasons. One more thing I have forgotten. We had very strange situations, because one of so-called witness on our trial was vice minister of national defense.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and he came there, and what he told as witness, he made a speech, and during this speech he told that we have to be burned with hot iron. I asked him, what does it mean? He told me, you have to be pulled out with your roofs. With your roofs, right?
Wow.
I asked, is there any legal base for this? Doesn't matter.
That's what he said? It doesn't matter?
He was a witness. So I asked him, what the witness have seen or read, what would indicate that we are promoting totalitarian system of the state, what the publications you have seen. He haven't seen anything, he haven't read anything, but he's a witness.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I really would like you or anyone could have such a trial for anything, when the representative of the government is coming and calling you to be burned with iron, and he's witness who haven't seen anything or read anything.
Why do you think the Polish government is doing that? Is this part of like a larger distortion of the history of socialist Poland, for example, and the history of communism in Eastern Europe, do you think?
Yes, it is. Of course, the anti-communism is the general historical policy of Poland now, and this is also mixed with anti-Russian hysteria, and is instrumentally used against any other countries that are being considered hostile to United States. So sometimes totalitarianism is being attributed to today's China, sometimes it isn't. It depends on the political relations. North Korea is very often totalitarian, and one of the subjects discussed was that I wrote something good about North Korean leader. But after Donald Trump visited North Korea and said many good things about Kim Jong-un, this thing was being silenced on this process for a while, right? Because I write something good about Kim Jong-il or Kim Jong-un, it was bad and I was accused. But Donald Trump came there and tell many good things, how clever is this guy, and my words became very teeny comparing to that, right? So you see, sometimes the state is totalitarian and telling any good words about the leaders is just a crime in Poland. But sometimes it is appreciated. This all the time changes, but the description and this article is all the time the same.
Yeah. Well, what do you have to say about like the current historical narrative in Poland, how they equate the Nazi occupiers, the people who built the concentration camps in Poland, and the Soviet Union, who literally dismantled those concentration camps and liberated the country from Nazi occupation? What do you think about them equating that?
I think this is extremist propaganda, and this is completely contrary to facts that are well known and proven, especially look at the demography. During the Nazi occupation, German occupation, we had rapid drop in the population. We lost over 6 million citizens. After the war, during so-called, and we lost lots of buildings, industries, everything, because it was destroyed or stolen by Germany. After the war, we had rapid growth of the population, and this growth was just until the 1989. It stopped then, and the population started to decline. We had plenty lot of new industries. We became industrial country. Before the war, we were agricultural country. We had lots of new industries, but also we built millions of flats. People started to migrate from the countryside to the cities and towns. So this is something completely incomparable, and we cannot ever call it occupation because Poland has the independence in decision. There was, of course, relation. This relation was sometimes not equal, but if we compare it to the situation we have today, Poland is formally not independent country because we lost many attributes of sovereignty, right? We cannot decide about many things our own, as we are the member of European Union. And also, I think that someone not on the highest position in US embassy has more to say about our internal affairs than many official politicians that are in power. I hope the prime minister even can't do as much.
Yeah,
as the middle range official of U.S. embassy.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you lived in socialist Poland yourself, and what kind of stuff do you have to say about like the kind of anti-communist propaganda that a lot of right-wing Polish people make, both in Poland and in the Western world, when they say about communism? You know, what do you have to say about that? Why do these people do things like that?
First of all, I will tell you that we have really best vinegar in the world.
Yeah.
Because if you hear them, you know that we had only vinegar on the shop shelves.
Yeah.
And how many generations grown on this vinegar?
Yeah.
And people survived it. And now are still alive.
Yeah.
But this is a joke. Of course, we have many problems, temporary problems, and some long-lasting problems. I know it wasn't paradise, but we are experiencing problems also now, and we had lots of problems in the 90s and the beginning of 20th century. We had no such kind of poverty we are having now, because basically there were no hungry people in Poland. Everyone had a place to live in, everyone had clothes, everyone had food, everyone had a job. And while it wasn't really good paid in the terms of Western consumption and buying power, all the basic stuff was available for every worker.
Mm-hmm.
We had also a good education system that educated really well our engineers, doctors, and scientists, and many workers that only had a basic or professional education had a lot of wide knowledge about the world. People aren't having now, even after the study.
Yeah.
We had also good, relatively good medical service. We produced our own medicine, drugs, and cures. So we didn't have to pay $1,000 for just a couple of very dear pillows.
Yeah, of course.
We produced our own medical equipment, so it wasn't such a problem. So we have spent lots and lots of money to buy it from the Western countries.
Yeah. Wow.
And we have social security. We had social security, and we had very rich social relations. We are missing now, because now people are hostile to each other, or at least they don't trust each other. In this time, we had really good social relations between workers in the factories, between the neighbors. People were friendly.
Mm-hmm. Well, this actually ties into the next question I had. It seems like Poland is going farther and farther to the right. I mean, it's one of the most right-wing countries in Europe, I would say, in terms of the government that leads the country. What do you see for the future of Poland?
What I can say, first of all, this is not just about right and left, because the concept of right and left is now very fuzzy, and we only the left of the Western style that are taking care for some so-called freedoms, and is focusing on the things that the former left had never have ever take so much care.
Yeah.
But what is the future? Now the future is uncertain. You see what is going on. We have the world's economic crisis, and we have also pandemia. And I think the Polish government is dealing with these issues very badly. Especially, they never had any concrete plan how to save our economy. They just using chaotic actions. They are putting in force and then lifting the limitations. They are giving away some money, especially for companies, not for ordinary people, and I think many bad things will happen, especially the economy will now collapse. But what I hope is that people will release that. Now people are in panic. They don't really know what is going on. Some lost their jobs, incomes. Some Some of them are having irrational attitudes, but it will be over, and the events and the time will show to the entire society that the system we had was very unstable. It was bad, and if the economy will collapse, they will have to rethink it. Mm-hmm. Many times. I hope it will come, and we will be able to change something at last, and start thinking about the society and the economy in more rational way. We will understand how the economy, the plan for the economy, how it is important, what could we do. We could also compare our experience with the experiences of other countries that never allowed to that, and why. This is what I really hope, that people will realize the capitalism is a really bad system, and such kind of governance that is chaotic and using only money to resolve any problems, and is also having already no money.
Yeah.
It's not very inefficient in such a situation.
Yeah. Well, those are all really good points. Thanks. I wanted to end with a question on how people around the world who sympathize with you in this, in my opinion, unfair trial, what they can do to help you. Maybe petition. Is there something, or what?
First of all, is good understanding of the situation, because there are very few informations. People know only that there are communists being prosecuted in Poland, but they need to know why they are persecuted and how this trial is ongoing, and this must be told to the people in the world. I think not only those who sympathize with communists, but also those who can think about the kind of the process that can be used and against virtually any group, any opposition is danger. And I want them to know this practice, and to criticize this practice.
Yeah.
So the best you can do is to spread the proper information about this, what is ongoing here. So the public could know it better.
Okay, great. Well, thanks a lot. I hope this video helps in that effort, actually. But thank you very much for coming onto my channel. This was a great interview. If you take any lesson away from this video, let it be that the past is paramount in understanding the present. History, of course, has its own truths and falsehoods, but they are always interpreted by historians and politicians through their own ideological lens, which is a product of their contemporary society and all its biases. It's really no accident that Poland's government is using its own historical narrative to achieve its political goals. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like it, comment it, subscribe it, share it if you did. I'm probably going to make another video with Marcin that takes a closer look at socialist Poland, what it did right and what it did wrong. So stay tuned for that, but until then, I'll see you in the next video.